All right, let's dive right into medieval India. We're talking about a time of just breathtaking ambition, incredible innovation, and, well, devastating collapse. We're going to trace the rise and fall of these massive empires that completely reshaped the subcontinent and, left a legacy we can still see today.
So that's really the big question, isn't it? How do you build an empire, but also, how do you lose one? I mean, this is the question that warriors, sultans, and emperors had to deal with for centuries. And for medieval India, our story kicks off not with a collapse, but with something new. A powerful force arriving on the scene.
So, let's set the scene. We're in the 7th century. The rise of Islam over in Arabia, well, it wasn't just about a new faith. It was like a tidal wave, A political and military force that just exploded outwards with incredible speed. So fast that it reached the borders of India in less than a lifetime.
I mean, the speed of this expansion is just staggering. Seriously, look at these dates. In just a few decades, this new power gobbled up huge territories. By 712 AD, get this, armies from the same empire were marching into Spain and at the same time right into the Indian subcontinent. That's a huge deal for our story.
Okay, so this is the moment right here. 712 AD. This is where everything changes. An army, led by a really young general named Muhammad bin Qasim, marches into the region of Sindh. And just like that, you have the first Muslim rule established in the subcontinent. This is the seed, the very foundation of what's going to become the Delhi Sultanate.
So, they're in power. Now what? You're a sultan, you've got this huge, complex place like India to run. How do you do it? Well, what they did was pretty bold. They started trying out some really radical experiments to keep control. And yeah, some of them were, well, let's just say they didn't end well.
Let's look at our first example, Sultan Alauddin Khalji. This guy was a brilliant military commander, but also totally ruthless. He had this massive army to pay for, so he does something nobody had really done before. He decides he's going to fix the price of everything. I mean, everything essential in the capital. Grain, horses, even slaves. He's setting the price. And he was incredibly organized about it. This wasn't just some random decree. No, he completely restructured Delhi's entire economy. He split it into 3 separate, tightly controlled markets. And to make sure everyone followed his prices, he set up a whole system, a superintendent, intelligence officers, and even a network of secret spies. If you were a merchant and you got caught cheating, you were in big trouble. It was an absolutely stunning level of government control over the economy. And this kind of wild experimentation didn't stop there. The next major ruler, Muhammad Tughlaq, was maybe one of the most brilliant and controversial sultans of them all. He had a huge problem. There was a global shortage of silver, and his treasury was running dry. So what does he do? He launches this incredibly audacious gamble with the currency itself. So here's what he did. He created what we'd now call a token currency. He basically said, okay, see this new copper coin? From now on, it's worth the exact same as one of our precious silver coins. Now, to us, that might sound a little familiar, but back then, this idea was hundreds of years ahead of its time. For people in 14th century India, it was just bizarre.
But the whole thing failed. And not just failed, it failed spectacularly. So what went wrong? Well, the state just couldn't control who was making the coins. People pretty quickly figured out, hey, I can make these copper coins myself, in my own house. Suddenly, the market was flooded with fakes, the economy just tanked, and the Sultan had to scrap the whole idea and buy back all the coins. It nearly bankrupted the entire state.
All this instability in the late Sultanate, it created a massive power vacuum. And you know what happens with power vacuums? Someone always steps in to fill them. In this case, it was a new dynasty, with a lineage tracing back to Timur and Genghis Khan. They were about to build one of the richest, most powerful empires the world had ever seen, the Mughals.
And the story of the Mughal Empire really begins with these odds. Just look at this. It's 1526, the first Battle of Panipat. You've got this guy Babur facing the massive army of the Delhi Sultan, and he's outnumbered something like 10 to 1. I mean, the numbers are just insane.
So how on earth did he pull it off? It wasn't about having more men, not at all.
It was all about having better tech and smarter tactics. Babur brought some revolutionary stuff with him. We're talking Ottoman field artillery, cannons, and this clever encircling tactic that the Lodi army had just never seen before. They were completely overwhelmed.
You gotta understand, this victory was so much more than just a new guy on the throne. Bringing gunpowder and artillery onto the battlefield in India, that was a total game changer. It was a technological shockwave that would completely change how wars were fought and how empires were built on the subcontinent from that day forward.
Now, the Mughal Empire really hit its peak under rulers like Babur's grandson, Akbar the Great. His whole approach, religious tolerance, supporting the arts, efficient government, it became legendary, so much so that if another ruler was really good, like Sultan Zainul Abidin of Kashmir, the biggest compliment you could give them was to call them the Akbar of their kingdom. That tells you everything, right? His rule wasn't just about conquest, it was about trying to genuinely bring different cultures together.
And the secret sauce to the Mughals' long-lasting power wasn't just about cannons. It was about their incredible system of administration. It was like a well-oiled machine. Sure, they had systems where they gave nobles land in exchange for soldiers, but what was truly revolutionary was how they dealt with the average farmer. They set up a system that gave peasants official written deeds for their land. This created a direct connection between the farmer and the emperor, and it allowed them to keep meticulous records of taxes. That stability, that was the bedrock of all their wealth and power.
But let's go back to that question we started with. Empires aren't just built, they're also lost. And sure enough, by the 18th century, the mighty Mughal Empire starts to weaken. The central control is fading, and you start to see these cracks appearing. And from those cracks, new powers begin to emerge.
And what this does is completely redraw the map of India. Suddenly, you have all these powerful successor states popping up all over the place. You've got the Marathas in the Deccan, the Sikhs up in the Punjab, and right in the heartland, guys who used to be Mughal governors in places like Awadh and Hyderabad, well, they start acting like independent kings.
Okay, so what did all this fragmentation actually mean? Was the 18th century just a time of chaos and collapse? This is a really big question, and for decades, historians have been arguing about it.
So, you've got two main camps. On one side, you have the Dark Age view. These historians look at the political chaos, the warfare, the decline of old cities like Delhi and say, yeah, it was a mess. But then you have the regional boom view. They say, hold on, as the old center collapsed, these new regional capitals, places like Lucknow and Hyderabad, were booming. They became vibrant centers for art, music, and trade.
And that really leaves us with this final big question. Was the fall of the Mughals just an ending, a full stop? Or was this chaotic, creative, dynamic period the actual beginning of something new, the start of a more modern India, setting the stage for everything that was to come? It's a huge debate, and it's one that people are still having today.